show on Kids Place Live. We were telling a story earlier about a man in New Jersey who accidentally broke into the wrong apartment and cleaned the whole thing. It was part of his new cleaning service. He got one number in the address wrong for the home he was going to for the first time. Sure enough, that home happened to have a key underneath the mat, and he entered the home, he cleaned the whole thing, and then he realized, whoops, I cleaned the wrong house. These people have no idea I'm in here, and the house I was supposed to clean is next door. So it got me thinking about mistaken identities, major mix-ups, and I just remembered, Tori, I got the best story for this that happened on Saturday night.
What happened?
Okay, so we were at this restaurant, and absolutely mister, I look over, and he's under the table on his cell phone. And I was like, what are you doing? We're having dinner. What are you doing on your cell phone? He goes, just hang on a second. I'm trying to remember her last name. And I was like, whose last name? He's like, that's Julie across the table. I was like, who's Julie? Julie was someone he worked with like a decade ago. He couldn't remember her last name, so he was trying to find her last name. Then he finds the last name. He walks over to her table, and he goes, Julie Carter! That's not her actual last name. I'm changing the last names. Julie Carter! Hey, bring it! And he's like, bring it in! Like, gonna give her a big hug, and she gets up, and she gives absolutely Mr. a hug, and they talk, and he's like, oh, it was so great working with you all those years ago, and she's just nodding and smiling politely, and he said something about the organization that they worked for, and she goes, oh, I don't work for that. And he goes, well, I mean, oh, where are you now? And she's like, no, I never worked there.
Oh, no.
And he goes like, Julie Carter. And she goes, no, I'm Julie Parker. And he's like totally embarrassed, totally thrown up. My kids are just crawling under the table at this point. They're so embarrassed. And everyone got a good laugh, but he like went in for the biggest hug. Her name was Julie. She looked just like the Julie he knew, but they had different last names, even though their last names were pretty similar.
Wait a minute.
And now we've made a new friend.
Wait, he didn't know her at all?
He didn't know her at all.
Then how did he know her first name was Julie?
Because that was a coincidence. Because he thought she was the Julie that he knew. This lady, yeah, her name was Julie.
By accident?
By accident, by coincidence. Her name was Julie.
What?
But when he said the last name and the name of the place where they worked, she was like, no, I never worked there, and also that's not my last name. He was so embarrassed, but this woman was so nice, so kind. She's like, well, it was a nice hug. He gives good hugs.
And imagine if a stranger comes up to you and just wraps you in a big bear hug, and you just
bear
act
hug.
like,
I mean,
yeah.
He went all in on this hug. That was the best. He goes up to the table, he's like, Julie, and he opens his arms real big, like, come on, bring it in, kind of like that. And she got up and gave him a hug. Had no idea who he was.
All that I could